to us today. He's going to elaborate. So I'll just give you a little bit of the background. So when I was a student, he was a guest speaker here. The way we met was actually, I think he was coming up on the elevator, and I was in the elevator. And I was like, oh, are you guys people here from Google to, film? Because if so, I'm ready. And I said something kind of funny. We changed the laugh. Had no idea he was actually a salon owner. But when he gave his, basically when he did what he's going to do for you guys, I just fell in love with just the way he thinks. And so when we had our fundraising campaign, we do it every year, it's Run a Future Professional, I actually reached out to his salon. And I just said, hey, would you guys rent me for the day? I'd love to come and spend the day with you all. And he graciously accepted. And so when I spent the day in his salon, it ran like the most perfectly oiled machine. I will say that. But without any of the machine feeling. It was so natural. The flow was amazing. When a client would walk out, within a few minutes, the next client was walking in. I didn't ever see anyone waiting. All the work was consistent. It was beautiful. They weren't efficient. They were fast, but they didn't look rushed. The guests were always pleased. Blow dries were exceptional. Everything was amazing, and I was just astounded. I'd never seen a salon run so smoothly, or run just where you can tell everyone is in sync, and there are no gaps. There are no gaps. Everyone is very trained very well under this man here. So he is going to tell you more, but he's had the opportunity to work with our legends in our hair industry, and he himself is one of our greats. So definitely extend your ears, eyes, questions. Make sure you have some for him, because he is a wealth of knowledge. And some of you guys may know that I didn't pick a salon when I went to Atlanta, went to this place called Master, came back, and I was too picky. But if I went somewhere, probably be right here. So please give him a warm welcome, Mr. Alexander Benson.
Thank you. A pleasure to be here today. Alexander G is reshaping the way people feel about hair. We do not succumb to passing trends. Instead, we tailor looks for individuals. Individuality cannot be mass-produced. Individuality is an expression. This is what we're doing at Alexander G. Each of you here today have ideas, goals, perhaps aspirations about how your career may shape, or maybe not. But you're going out into an industry, into a world that is highly competitive. Some make it, some don't. The statistics in the industry are alarming. 80% of the industry makes barely ends meet, and 20% make 80%. So 20% of the industry make 80% of the revenue, and the 80% make barely ends meet. And what happens to that 80% is many leave the industry discouraged. And so that's a fact. Why am I telling you this? Because it's really important to know how to communicate properly. Active listening is key. That will shape the brand experience that you create. So let's take a look at the industry from outside of our point of view. So I'm a hairdresser, you're hairdressers, aspiring hairdressers, but we're all inside the industry. So let's go outside and see and hear what people are saying. I hear it quite a lot. We have reality TV shows that grossly misrepresent the hair industry. The industry that I represent, the respectability and the responsibility that I have, has no reflection on those ludicrous TV shows, right? It's going to be your livelihood. You're taking this seriously, right? So when we take a look at our industry from the outside, the most important person is the client, right? The client. The client is actually what creates our livelihood. But the complaints that we hear, I'm going to ask some of you what you think are some of the most common things that clients complain about. And you may have had this before. Who would like to? Yes, what is your name?
Sonia.
Sonia? Sonia.
Yeah. I feel that they complain that their stylist doesn't really listen and the communication isn't clear of what they want and what they're being given.
True, very good. They cut my hair too short. Right. She was only supposed to take off 2 inches. Why am I so familiar with that? You said it was going to be half an inch and you took 4 inches. Right. Well, I'll give you some more examples. This is the client. This is the public. The complaints are here. I'm so tired of my hairdresser talking about his boyfriend who has once again cheated on him. I wish my hairstylist would listen to me. I wanted gold hair, not red. I don't know how much longer I can handle my stylist showing up late for the appointment. She's always late. The list goes on, right? I mean, there are many things that you hear about. And so this is the public's perception of our industry. Now, of course, we have clients that are loyal and happy. But when you go out there and look at the bad reviews, or you talk to people, you'll find out. When I go out a lot. I go to fundraisers, I go to schools. I love people. So I go out to new places to meet new people. And I actually don't introduce myself as a stylist. But they find out pretty quickly. And they say, well, what do you think about my hair? And I said, do you like your hair? They said, oh, yeah, I really do. Well, I said, it's fantastic. It's great. I'm not looking to try to take someone's client. But what do you think? When they ask me, well, what do you think about my hair? Then I will go through a series of questions. Are you happy with your existing hairdresser? Well, yeah, she's really nice. She's really nice, but she doesn't listen to me. I hear that one, and I hear much of what we've already talked about. I hear all these complaints. I hear, the saddest one is when I hear people talking about what my hair, in fact, I know someone who's very well known in the industry who is one of the best cutters there are, but he runs at least an hour behind. I feel so angry, this client would say. I'm always so angry. It's right. I would walk out if I had booked an appointment at 10 o'clock and you weren't going to see me till 11 and there was no apology. Because really my appointment should be at 11 then, right? So this is what the public perceive our industry as. Unfortunately, the negative is often very much stronger than the positive. So what are you going to do differently? So the question this leads to is communication, right? So each of us feel we have an expertise in one area. You may love cutting, you might love styling, you might love coloring. That's great. You might love it all and plan on doing it all together. Wonderful. But the communication is the key to the brand experience. Because if you do great work and you're distracted, or you're talking about your girlfriend or your boyfriend, or you're complaining about your dog, that undermines the brand experience. So your work is being detracted by what you say. So the power for us hairdressers is in what we say, how we communicate, how I communicate with you, how you communicate with me. What do you think about this?
It's true.
It's true, right? I'm glad you're really captivated. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to have two of you come up to the stage. Come on up. Come on up. Thank you. Nicholas? Nicholas?
And Kelsey.
Kelsey. Nicholas and Kelsey are going to be part of the Alexander G team today. So I'm going to do what we do at Alexander G. All right? Are you up for it? Up for the challenge? Excellent. Okay.
I'm nervous now.
Well, that's good. Right. So this is also very, very important for us hairdressers. Nervous. When I feel anxiety, what's happening to me?
My heart is beating like ridiculously fast right now.
True. Kelsey?
Well, being as fair as I am, I just get really pink, so
Okay.
I get really red.
Right. I do too. I start to get. But what is anxiety? Anxiety is a transition. In my years of experience, what I've landed on, and what anchors me, is that I know I really care about this process. I care about the outcome. I want Nicholas to be really happy with his hair. I want Kelsey to be so happy that she comes back and she tells her friends, right? So there's the responsibility. It doesn't make me want to run away. It makes me want to communicate very clearly with you. So it's so important to acknowledge how you feel. And that's exactly a normal human emotion. Coming into a new environment, you're going to feel anxiety. Bingo, great, we're on track. Okay. So the other part of what's really important for us hairdressers is observation, right? See, if I faced the other way and I didn't look at Nicholas, I wouldn't necessarily know what to do with his hair, right? Okay. So we're going to do a little test. Kelsey, if you turn slightly towards us. Nicholas, I want you to pay attention to Kelsey. Every detail you can think of about Kelsey. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds. Just absorb everything. Okay. All right. So now you're going to face this way, face the audience. Not at Kelsey. Kelsey can continue to face the audience. So Nicholas, tell me what you observed about Kelsey. Let's start from the top and work down.
I like her silver hair.
Great. Yes.
I like her lipstick.
What's the color of her lipstick?
I think it's like red, like more like a red orange.
Right.
I like her black outfit today. I like everyone's black outfit today. I like her blue shoes. They're really cool. I like her lip piercing.
Okay. How do you think Nicholas did? Good. Right. One thing. So he mentioned everything. There was a tattoo on the left arm. There were 2 rings on the left hand and 1 ring on the right. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. So that would complete the picture. But that was very good. So when we look at 100% out of 100%, we give Nicholas about 85. This is really good. So Nicholas goes on to be part of the 20% of successful hairdressers, in theory, right? Why is this so important? Because we must observe. At Alexander G, I take in everything. It's zzz, I go in, I look at everything. All the details. Nicholas was excellent in taking that information in. So then the question, what you ask yourself is, what does this mean to me? What information do I now have about Kelsey? So I think about that. So active listening is where we postpone judgment and we gather information. Have any of you learnt or been familiar with this term, active listening? Would anyone like to give me your definition? Yes.
Read between the lines.
Read between the lines. Listening with an open mind. Yes?
Don't think of your response, only take in the information.
That's excellent. That's ideal. Postpone, 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 right? Don't we hear in life, it's such a common term now, postpone gratification, right? Those who postpone gratification will save a fortune or will have successful lives, right? But we're faced with the things that we want. Can we walk away from it and postpone it until later? They do this with small children. They put candy in front of them and see which child can postpone that. It's very difficult, right? But that is very, very important. So why is it important? It is important because I have just met, for example, Kelsey. I truthfully don't know anything about Kelsey. I know about her appearance and how I interpret that. But Kelsey's appearance and details to the appearance may have very different meaning. Therefore, if I cast judgment at this point, I'm going to miss the mark. It's very, very important to communicate clearly with your client so that you can get to know who they are. As I've spoken at the school for several years in a row now, the one thing I always get to is when we meet a new client, what's important to acknowledge is that the client is a complete stranger. Now, for those of you who haven't traveled around the world and met many different cultures, but here in the United States, in California, things generally are very casual, very friendly, right? That's nice, it's great. The problem with that is a formality is missing when we meet that new client. And the problems that occur is that we assume some kind of friendship very quickly. And that is usually born from a level of anxiety that the client or the hairdresser may be experiencing. So as a stylist behind the chair, we want to postpone the judgment. Open mind, gather that information, right? But the most important thing, as I said, is to take in the observation. And now the client's in your chair, and it's the body language now. The non-verbal communication is going to be very, very important. So when an individual crosses their arms, Nicholas, what does that tell you?
That she's very like reserved in the moment and like kind of shut off, I guess, or she's chilling.
And what is your name? Kayla. So that's actually a good observation. And it's not necessarily a negative. If someone's crossing their arms when they first meet you, especially if it's a client in the chair, what you also have going on is that I'm standing above the client in the power position, and the client is sitting in a passive position. No matter how you want to see it, that's the truth, right? We're complete strangers. So crossing the arms is actually an appropriate response. But what we do at Alexander G is ask questions. Always ask the questions. Never get too personal too quickly. So we go through a series of questions. Which one of you would like to be the client? Nicholas, would you like to be the client? Okay. So Kelsey, we're going to stand because by nature us hairdressers stand most of the time. Get ready for it. You're going to be standing for the next 30 years. It's actually better for your hips and better for your health. So Kelsey, we're going to go through a series of questions. Nicholas is going to be a new client.
Okay, we're starting now. Okay, hi. I'm Kelsey.
Nicholas,
Nice to meet you. I'll be your stylist today. So what are you looking to do to your hair today?
I just want a nice blowout, and I want to be all flowy and stuff like Prince.
Oh. Don't we all? Okay. All right, and are you looking to get some nice volume in it? Or? Okay, and what are some challenges you find with your hair normally?
It's kind of dry and I have extra curly baby hair, so it's like kind of hard to deal with. And
Okay.
pain when I want it to be straight.
All right, so you want to put some moisture back into it. Okay.
Okay, so there we have, that's a very good natural start consultation. So what we observed about Nicholas is Nicholas, what would you notice about his personality?
He clearly wants to be like Prince.
Right?
I
No, this
already
is
know
good.
that about him though, so that's fine.
Okay, right. So I learned that. I should speak now because I've never met Nicholas before, and he's a charming young man.
I feel like his appearance though, like he's very sweet with a smile, and then you look at his shoes and stuff, and you know there's a little bit of a wild side to him because it's Prince. And then he
Okay.
said Prince, and I was like, okay, he can like break out of his shell.
Okay, so we've observed that. So what I would be doing with Nicholas, he would come in, sit in my chair, and we would obviously be introduced first. He would sit in my chair, and then I would be obviously standing behind him, we'd be looking in the mirror. But this would be very similar to standing face to face as we are now. So that's why I want you to be comfortable in this close quarters. This is the vicinity that you're going to spend about 20 or 30 years of your life. And learn to be comfortable with it and really good, because many clients will not be comfortable being this close. So what I do is I introduce formality. Formality is form. That's really all it is. It's a procedure. The idea is it sets a standard. If a door opens, you step through it, right? It teaches us how to behave. So I've got 15 minutes maximum, 10 to 15 minutes to get to know Nicholas the best I can, right? I need to find out as much as I can about Nicholas in order to tailor this specific look for Nicholas. Because if I just give Nicholas what he's asking, if I just keep asking questions about what he wants, then he'll get more or less what he wants, but he could sort of get that anywhere else. But then Nicholas is in charge of the appointment. So the responsibility for a good hairdresser is to take charge. To take charge means the questions have to be pertinent. So one of the first things I will ask Nicholas, when did you last have your hair cut?
A couple weeks ago by Sherry.
2 weeks ago by Sherry Ann. That's ideal. You want real specifics. Some clients will say, oh, a while ago. So then I say, how long is a while ago? So never accept something that is vague as concrete. Pursue it. Because what's going to happen is you go through that consultation, it's going to be in the back of your mind, and then you'll start to let go of other pertinent pieces of the consultation. So anything that you're not clear about, stop and re-ask the question. So then I go to the next part is to ask Nicholas, is there anything that you don't like about your hair?
It doesn't like to listen. It's very disobedient. It just likes to fight back, like Muhammad.
Would it be correct to infer that Muhammad is Muhammad Ali? We could, right? So this was very interesting. So we got the response that Nicholas gave us was more of an emotion, a characteristic response, right, of a person than a head of hair. Would you not agree? Right. This is where the juice of our industry is. Because when we get into the great word is feel. So what we've done at Alexander G is we tailor that question. Is there anything that you don't like? Or is anything that you feel you don't like about your hair? So what happens is people tell us how they feel, but they direct it through their hair. And that's actually quite a creative way to respond, right? Would you agree? But if you didn't know we were in hairdressing and Nicholas responded, what would you think Nicholas was talking about? Let's go back. Active listening. What did Nicholas say? Doesn't listen, right? Does hair listen?
Talking
Okay.
about like a disobedient child or something.
Disobedient, right? So this is really interesting. Wonderful characteristics. But see, then we're in. Now we've got a bit more of a sense of the client. Okay. So then what I will tend to do with that client, see, Nicholas' responses were very clear. But what I will do is I will go in a little further. So tell me a bit, let's talk a bit more about the history of your hair and how you feel about your hair, right? So now Nicholas is giving me, we're going to give me more information. So would you like to respond?
What other information do you want to know about?
No, just about your hair.
Oh,
How do you feel that you have more skills today with addressing your hair than you did perhaps 10 years ago?
yes,
And why would that be?
because I go to school here now and I know a lot more.
You go to school here, that's great. Well, terrific. So as years go on, we learn more, right? Okay. So we've got through those first two questions. Once we can get at those core values about how someone feels about their hair, then we can proceed. So what I'm doing all the time is observing facial shape, eye color. When we tailor a specific look, as I said, I'm not just going to plop on a trend, some style, and off you go. I'm going to look at Nicholas's face. You see, when people come to me, they pay $175 for a haircut. So they really have an expectation. They don't just want a haircut. They want me to tailor a look specific to Nicholas. So it's very important that I get to understand Nicholas's personality in this brief time. Then I will talk about the products you're using. Have you been happy with the products you're using? So nothing is really confrontational. The questions are all leading. Get it to flow. Okay? So that was very good. All right, so should we reverse it? Nicholas is going to then, see if you can take the Alexander G approach. When did you last have your hair cut? How do you feel about your hair? Not how do you feel, but how do you feel about your hair? Start with those, with Kelsey.
Hello, Kelsey. I'm Nicholas. I'm going to be your
Hi,
stylist
nice to
today.
meet you.
So, what do you like about your hair? How do you feel about it?
I like the color right now.
Or you do?
I do like the color. It does not, I have this funky little cowlick in the back that tends to just stick up unless I'm really blow dry it a certain way. So maybe something that'll more control the cowlick as far as the haircut.
And when is the last time you got your hair cut?
Like 3 weeks ago. This has been trimmed, but the top hasn't been cut in about like a month or so.
So, when is the last time you trimmed up the sides? Just
Like a week and a half.
Okay, so that's quite a bit of information. So what was the most important piece of this discussion? What did you get?
her cowlick.
The cowlick, absolutely. So this is the opportunity to consolidate, is to really get client's loyalty here. Because if you master that, and I bet you, Kelsey, you've expressed this to how many hairdressers in your past?
A lot.
A lot of hairdressers. And the problem has always been the same, right?
Yeah.
And so your question about how do you feel led to that. So what we do then is we look, as a hairdresser, you look very carefully. You know, one of the golden rules of hairdressing when I learned, and actually I did learn the Vida Sassoon way in London, is that the crown is the golden area. Be very careful about cutting this. People are too quick about cutting a crown too short. But then I can't achieve the hairstyle that I want. Rethink the hairstyle. You have to have a foundation. If we're talking about tailoring, shape, form, you have to have a foundation. So this is the golden area. You have to be very, very careful about this. Now, some haircuts may call for that. You may do that. But not if it's the client's complaint. If it's the client's complaint, then let's address the problem. Because then Kelsey will continue to come back. So this is the power of communicating, of shaping a consultation that's conducive for this relationship. You see, I often will say, I think we talked about this before, that We are in the relationship industry. We happen to be doing hair. Because rarely are people in such close quarters putting as much trust as they do into your hands. And that's the thing. So we don't want to be talking about subjects that don't relate to this experience. I want to make sure Kelsey feels good. At first, feels relaxed, starts to trust, and listens. I don't want her to go away. I want her to return. And this is the biggest challenge that hairdressers today have. Okay, well, thank you so much, both of you, for coming up to the stage. So, I've given you a good concrete example of what that dynamic is between hairdresser and client, right? So this is what shapes the brand experience. You, each of you, have the power behind your chair to shape your destiny by getting to know each client. But where it all starts, it starts out there. It starts at home. It starts as you wake up in the morning and you look in the mirror. And what do you say to yourself? What are the things that you're entertaining in your mind? If you're troubled and bothered about something, are you talking to the right person about that to get that resolved? But if you're not, and you're coming to work and you have a client in your chair, I'm telling you, you're going to transmit that to the client. It's going to be very difficult to actively listen. How many of you have, and I'd like to hear from one or two of you at least, have those days when you wake up in the morning and you feel great, you go through the day, everything just seems so easy, right? Okay, what is your name?
Tara,
Tara. So tell me about that day that you have.
It's just, I think it's the energy you put out into the world. You wake up and you're in a great mood, and it's like everything just seems like it falls into place perfectly.
Everything falls into place perfectly. How many days a week do you have that?
Honestly,
Absolutely.
maybe 2 or 3.
2 or 3 days out of how many? 7. Okay, interesting, right? How many days do you go to work? Imagine you're a hairdresser, you're a full-time hairdresser. You're working for me. You're going to work 5 days a week. So I can rely on you. How many days a week did you say? 2 to 3. So where are you going to be the rest of the time?
In your own head.
In your own head. Okay, come with me. Come on up here. We're going to have a talk here. So, Kelsey, is it?
Tara.
Tara. Okay. So Tara, you'd say 2 to 3 days a week, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so those days you feel like you're on, right? Mm-hmm. Everything goes really well.
Yeah.
Tell me about the day after that. Do you remember your thoughts?
Maybe like, why can't today be like that day? Like, what's maybe wrong with me? Why am I so out of it or distracted? Maybe wishing that you're distracted. Maybe wishing that everything, like every day, would be like that. Or
Right. Isn't that true? It's so true. So really what this is about is social development, what we're talking about. And for us hairdressers, that's why this is so important. And that's why I love coming and doing this, because this is really truly to do with being vulnerable. Can you allow yourself to be vulnerable? Because the more vulnerable you are in appropriate settings, then when you come into a formal setting with a client, or you come into a setting like this, for me with you, I'm very comfortable. I feel very at ease with myself and asking questions, because I don't want to mislead any of you. My sole purpose is to try to help and help you find a way to tap in to that power source, tap into that energy that makes you feel so good, right? Oh, I wish I could feel like this all the time, right? Well, when we hear bad news, right, starts to impact us, right? We have an interaction with a friend, a spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, right? It's all to do with communication. It's all to do with communication. But I must be communicating with myself in the morning. So when you wake up in the morning, I'd recommend, in fact, I have my staff, they have, vision boards, they have things they write in pen across a mirror. They say mantras to themselves. I had one employee, I'll tell you, she doesn't work for me anymore. First day she came to work, she was very enthusiastic. She's about 23 years old. She came up the stairs, came to work, and I had a really good day. The next day, the door opened. I'm twice her age. What's going on? She came up and says, what time are we going home? You know what I said to her? Now. You're going home now. Off you go. What do you mean? Now, go home. So she left. 5 o'clock that night, I called her. Hello, she says. I said, hello. Why do you think I'm calling you? I'm not sure. Well, why don't you call me tomorrow when you're sure about what we should be talking about? Plunk. I hung the phone up. So, right, you get a reaction, right? Who over here had that reaction? Thank you. So what did that feel like? If I did that to you, what does that feel like? Be honest. What does it feel like?
It's like, ooh, I messed up, I'm fired, what am I gonna do?
Okay, what am I going to do, right?
Just you messed up. Even if you don't realize it in the morning when you told me to go home, it's like, I obviously did.
Right, so the idea is right? Because really, I sent her home because she really didn't want to be at work. The language she's telling herself, she's coming to work. When you come to work at Alexander G, the last thing you think about is going home, right? Don't think about going home because it's going to be a long, long road. So this is healthy role modeling. You're going to learn. We learn as people when we have these kind of boundaries set. So it's about your attitude. So it's the attitude. Now you can overcome, that's the thing, is those 2 days, your sort of potential now is to convert those 2 days to 7 days, or 2 days to 3. Let's start with 3. So I'm going to make sure that I have 3 days that I'm on. But what is the recipe? What is this? What are the directions that I need in order to tap into that? Anyone else from the audience like to give me? Sherry Lynn, do you have some input on this?
Yeah, I think it's really important to have a routine.
A routine, right. What kind of routine?
As far as like, I know like in the morning, one of the things I need to do, I have to listen to music. And I listen to music that's upbeat and it always puts me in a really good spirit. Whether it's your appearance, makeup, any of that kind of stuff. But all that is really important for
I think a big part of having a day has a lot to do with like how you view yourself and what you deserve. And I think a lot of times, like I've had those days too where I go to school and I'm like, ah. And then it's just like sometimes you have to realize like I pay a lot of money to be here and like I should make the best of it. Or even work, it's like I'm really lucky to have this job, and I feel like sometimes it's really hard to focus on the positive every day. But I think you really need to just look at your self-worth and how you view yourself.
Very good. That's excellent, yeah. Essential theme. Okay, my purpose. My purpose. I am investing. Each of you are investing in your futures. You're investing in your future. I'm not investing in yours. You're investing in your own future, right? Get serious about it. No one else is. But you know the wonderful thing is, you will find the more you invest in yourself, the easier it is to transmit that to others. And then you'll find yourself surrounded by wonderful people that all seem to cooperate. Life can be very, very difficult. There's many different challenges. But in hairdressing, what we have you had experiences behind the chair with clients where the client shuts down?
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. Give me that example.
I was doing highlights salon, actually my aunt, she came in, we have this thing called Super Service Day where we bring in like friends and family and whatnot, and she just completely wouldn't talk to me, wouldn't acknowledge me, and we're family, so I was really confused. I found out later on that it's just she doesn't like sitting for long periods of time, but it scared me because I felt as if like it was something I did and I wasn't giving her the service she deserved, and it turned out she loved her hair, but it was scary.
Scary, right? So if we take out hairdressing and then you describe that, sounds like an alarming experience, right? And so this is what I try to do to friends of mine who are in other industries, businesses. I try to represent our industry, which is what I want you all, you know, the future generation of stylists, you all are. That's what's exciting. You have a responsibility to educate when you go out there, educate. So how can you overcome this? Let's do a role play, right? You're going to shut down on me while I'm asking you questions. So what you're going to hear is exactly, if you were in my training program, this is the role play I would do. So you're going to hear, because in real life, you're going to experience all the feelings, right? But then there's no one to turn to, right? When you were doing, and she's family, oh my goodness, family is like the hardest thing to do. You have to set really clear boundaries with family. Okay, are we ready? Okay. Well, it's nice to see you today. So you're here for highlights, right? Mm-hmm. Excellent. So tell me, when did you last have your hair highlighted?
I don't know.
Don't know, okay. So what I can see by looking at your hair is that you do have your highlights. You have highlights, right?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
You think so? Okay. This is very good. Don't cooperate. Don't cooperate with me. So you think so. Would you mind if I touch your hair?
I guess.
Okay, great. All right, so yes, I actually see highlights. You've got about a 2 or 3 inch regrowth there, which would indicate perhaps there's 2-3 months. If we know that hair grows about ½ an inch a month, so that would probably tell us maybe 2.5 months since the last process. So how do you feel about your hair?
It's fine.
Fine, okay. Is there anything that you don't like about your hair?
I don't know.
You don't know, okay. All right then. And how long ago did you make this appointment?
Like, I think it was like a month ago or something.
A month ago.
I don't know. I think.
So a month ago. All right, so this appointment was made a month ago. So did you make the appointment or did someone else make the appointment for you?
I did.
You did, okay, good. So do you want to be here today?
Yeah.
You do, okay, good. Great. And so when I've been talking about your color, does that make sense? Would you say that you had your highlights done about 2 months ago?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay. All right. So the thing what I don't do is I don't rush it along. I stay with it, right? I stay with it. So what we're gathering so far is what? The client is not forthcoming. Client feels-
She's uncomfortable. She talks about it.
Right. So the thing that I have found, and this has only happened once in my career actually, and this was about 3 years ago. I had a client in my chair. You were actually much more forthcoming. But I had a client in my chair a few years ago who would not look at me. She sat like this, she looked down, and I went through the series of questions. It was the first time in my career I arrived at the point where I thought, I am not comfortable doing this person's hair because there's no communication. And so that's what you do have that as a hairdresser, a very, very last option, but it's only the last option after you've tried to engage the client. And the reason why we're focusing so much on this stage of the appointment, because of what we hear from the outside of the industry. No one listens and they never give me what we want. Because at the end of that appointment, when the client runs their hands to that, you know we're in trouble. when a client touches their hair, it's not good. It's not good. Usually what happens is they start to go quiet. They touch their hair, and hairdressers, we don't want them to. You're not allowed to touch your hair until I've finished, right? That's theory. But it's all gone bad then. There's nothing I can do at that point. I'm in a defensive mode. I cannot stand being defensive. I like to be proactive. So what I'm going to do is try to wake this situation up and get our client to take more responsibility for this appointment. So when I'm thinking about highlighting your hair, how do you feel about that?
Sounds good.
It sounds good.
Yeah.
Would you prefer not to do highlights?
I mean, you said yourself that I have a lot of regrowth, so.
Yeah. So it's a necessity that you do your highlights, right? Well, that's very good. So then I expect to see you in a couple of months, do you think?
Sure.
And it's not pushing a boundary. Yeah, I'm trying to get more of a sense out of what's going on here. Because what is it that you love about your hair?
The color.
You love the color. That's great. What is it you love about the color?
I just feel like it suits me.
It suits you. Great. Actually, I tend to agree. When I look at the color of your eyes and the shape of your face, it's a perfect match. You've got blue eyes, the blonde hair really enhances your skin tone. I think it's just wonderful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and get a color chart. I want to show you actually some pictures. I'm going to show you some pictures of different colors, and then you can show me what you feel is great. And that's another thing that's really, really important. You will actually, it's almost foolproof. If a client brings a photograph, or you go pull out some pictures from a magazine, right? Different blondes. Tell me, is there anything here that you love? And that's what I will do first. What I won't do is say, what do you think of this? Why would I not do that?
Because you're still looking at something for her, you're not giving her
Yeah, right. And she could say no. I don't want to go into the no, having to try again, because actually could be losing the client then. The client becomes very anxious. So what I do now is I shift the power over to the client, especially if the client's been withholding. So now I'm trying to engage the client, and then so I'll show pictures. I know what I want to do, but I have to double check. I have to make sure what the client likes. So then we go through a series and we look through photographs, right? And the client will say, so let's say I show you this one.
Yeah.
You like this?
Yeah.
What about this one?
It's pretty.
But you prefer this one?
Yeah, sure.
You like this one? Okay, good. All right. So we've gone through a process of elimination. Also what we're doing now is to look at what can I do differently, because I want to make sure that the client loves her hair and she gets what she wants. But if a client's come to me, Alexander G, for highlights, she's going to be paying $275. So there's usually a very specific reason why they've come to me. They don't really just want to repeat the past, but sometimes people do. They'll move, they've lost a hairdresser. So it may be as straightforward as that. What I want to do is put my mark on her hair. And so what I would do is then talk more about dimension, perhaps, in the hair. So that I'm very, very careful in this process to make sure that when I'm asking questions, often at this stage, I sort of know the answers. And it's the language in which I use. The way you describe things are going to illuminate the experience. They're going to really create that for the client. Okay, well, thanks so much for coming out. That's great. Okay, so we're going to go back over, recap what I've talked about today. Alexander G is reshaping the way people feel about hair. We do not succumb to passing trends. Instead, we tailor looks for individuals. Individuality cannot be mass-produced. Individuality is an expression. Every client that you have in your seat is an individual. They are not like anyone else. It's so important in this process of active listening. Do not compare your client to anyone else. They may look, they may feel like someone else, but they are not someone else. Really, really important. Also, we've talked about the brand experience, right? So the nature of what you discuss behind the chair is going to shape that experience. So when you come into if you're a client of mine and you come in and have an appointment with me, you'll go through this process. And I will do your hair, and then when you complete the process, and you will leave with your Alexander G bag, and you go down the stairs, there's a mirror as you leave, and it says, and most people look in the mirror, especially as they're leaving, it says a British approach to hair, and then they descend the stairs and leave. So my goal is that I've left them with something. They have left with something that they did not have at the beginning. Each of you must create your own approach to hairdressing. And you can never go wrong if it's from the heart. See, we hairdressers have a responsibility to represent the industry in the most professional, creative manner possible. But each of you are individuals. I'm an individual. I'm going to insert my individuality into that experience, but I'm going to make sure that it's conducive to a great experience for you. So the less I talk about myself and the more I show interest in you, the better your experience. And what usually happens is people start to ask questions, personal questions, as they get to know me. And then I give them that in return, and this relationship starts to build. But what I don't do is, we were talking about at the beginning there, about how casual things can be. You're bypassing a process. Never bypass a process. That would be saying, you're going to complete your training today because you think you've had enough, right? But life is a process. Well, none of us are in a hurry to get to the end, right? So, communication, right? Communication, active listening are going to be your anchors. The creativity will come if you follow a methodical process. That's the thing about us hairdressers. So I book appointments, haircuts, every 45 minutes. As Sherry Lynn experienced, actually I've never been more than 5 minutes late, and 5 minutes may be, if you're a client of mine, it's going to happen once in 10 years, maybe. So I pride myself on punctuality, but that means everyone has to be working together. So as we were talking earlier about how do you feel on a day-to-day basis, I have to make sure that my team, we're all on the same page. We're all in this together. We're all actively observing what the client is wearing. When I see the client go down the hallway, I'm taking in everything that she's wearing. How she holds herself, how she walks, how she sits in the chair. And all it is interesting. I say to myself, interesting. Gather, 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 gather. Usually what's happening is all these ideas are flooding into my mind. No. Postpone the ideas. Let's postpone those ideas. And then we go through the process. So has this been helpful for you all? Excellent. So we've covered today what my British approach to hairdressing is, what a consultation is, right? Active listening, communication, and the first thing that you do when you wake up in the morning. What are you going to do? Because what you do first thing in the morning, facing that mirror, will shape your day, will shape your week, will shape your month, will shape your year, and your career as a whole. So do it for yourself. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
We have some time for questions.
Perfect. I'd be happy.
Even a little bit about the history of the salon or
Yeah.
your background.
Yeah. No, I'm fine. Are you? Who's interested? My background. I can give you. Actually, it's quite humorous. Shall I go back? Do you want to come back to me to London? Okay. We're going back to 1979. I am 16 years old. Punk has broken out across London. Everywhere that's written, the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea has been defaced with anarchy in the UK. And I thought, this is the best thing since sliced bread. My father and parents alike were horrified. England was in a political turmoil. There was 40% unemployment in Northern England. The United States, by the way, has never had 40% unemployment. I think it was 30% during the Depression. This is dire. But London is the financial, the music, the creative hub of England. So people are still doing okay there. But there is all this turmoil. The Sex Pistols have launched themselves upon England, and Vivienne Westwood has come into the scene with Malcolm McLaren, and she opens a shop in Chelsea, in the heart of Chelsea. The name of the shop is Sex, and it's written in pink vinyl. This is 1979. This is unheard of. That kind of thing didn't even hit here until probably the late 80s, right? So that's what was going on in London. Now, I went to boarding school, into a very formal, austere English boarding school. We wore top hats and tails on Sundays, and we were to go into the local town and represent the school. So what a contrast, right? So here I had this sort of very formal upbringing, and yet I'm launched back into London, these two worlds. Which are you going to choose? Punk rock, fashion, rock and roll. So that's what I chose. Bright lights, color. And I went to the London College of Fashion. The London College of Fashion, I went there to study textiles. I actually wanted to be a clothing designer. But what I found is that I lost inspiration. I couldn't get inspired. And I really felt a loss working with fabrics. But I still had the desire to do it. What I discovered is that I really wanted the mannequins to talk. But the London College of Fashion is connected with the hair department. They have an amazing hairdressing department. So I switched departments and I went into hairdressing. And from that point on, it was just, my life was transformed. So I was there for 4 years. I studied there for 4 years. I'll tell you an experience that I had there, which was really remarkable. So one wet, rainy morning, we've got a talk, a 9 a.m. talk, a bit like this, and I'm almost about 5 minutes late, and I'm running in, and as I walk in, it's pouring with rain outside, and a woman is coming in behind me, and she looks almost like a pack lady or something, and she's got this long Macintosh and this hat, and she's soaking wet, and she's dragging this long bag. It looks like one of those military satchels. It's like a big sausage. And I'm sort of looking back and I thought, oh God, well, it is the London College of Fashion. You see everything there. So anyhow, off I go into the lecture hall and I sort of dust myself off. I'm sitting there. And then the art director comes in and she says, I'm very proud to announce Vivienne Westwood. And then the person who came up on the stage, who took this off, she was soaking wet, and it was Vivienne Westwood. So she pulled this huge, as I said, it was like a big sausage, up onto the stage, and for the next hour and a half, she threw fabric at us. Rubber, plastic, all different kinds of synthetics, which most of you are wearing, is integrated in your clothes today. It had not been launched yet. And she was probably the most controversial. She swore, she was anti-establishment. She really loathed the way the fashion industry was mass-produced, but she spoke to us. So that was an example of what I was exposed to. So then I went and worked at a very well-known hair salon called Sweeney's, from the Sweeney Todd concept, a guy called Denny Godber. and I was there probably, I think, 20 years old. I was assisting. So I had the pleasure of washing George Harrison's hair, Freddie Mercury's hair, let's see, Prince Ernst of Hanover, a number of these people. And what was interesting for me in those early years, because it really did shape who I was to become, I think. I met ordinary people that did extraordinary things. And that was really, really moving for me. So from London, I went to the Paris Fashion Show when I was 21, and that was incredible. That was more work than I think I've ever done. There were 14-hour days for 2 weeks, intense. But I learned a great deal there. And from there, I went to Milan, where I did an internship for a year, and that was very, very interesting. So coming from an English-British approach to hair background, to then going to Paris, and then going to Milan, I had a really good scope of what was going on. I returned to London, only to be lured by two really good friends who'd opened a salon in Beverly Hills, who kept saying, "You've got to come. The demand for British hairdressers here is fantastic. You're going to be busier than you'll ever dream of." So one Saturday, they kept calling me every week. So one Saturday, I said, "Okay, I'll come." And actually, I really haven't been back since. I've moved to Los Angeles. I worked in Beverly Hills, and that was an amazing experience. Very, very different than anywhere else. But I learned a lot too. I worked with some great hairdressers there as well. And then my plan was to move back to the UK, but I got sidetracked. I came up here for a wedding and loved it. It reminded me actually parts of London. And I liked how small it was, how diverse it was, how creative it was. You see, the thing for me about hairdressing is the people, the fashion, the music. I think with my background, I often believe that hair should be treated like a finely tailored suit. It's in the details of its composition that you find the beauty, truly. So when I look at hair, it's like opening my jacket. I look at all the details, like the lining, how the lining is sewn. When you look at a head of hair, look at the lining. Look at the differences, how it feels, the weight, all these different things. So I've found that all of this comes together. So my initial desire to be a clothing designer is alive and well today, because when I actually look at that client, I look at how those clothes drape. How is that drape? How does the hair drape? How does that client hold themselves? Do I want to expose their neck or not? Does she have high cheekbones? Does she have beautiful big blue eyes? And she's covering her face. All of this is all part of the same thing. So that's my background. I've met many, many wonderful people along the way, but I'm always most privileged to meet people today.
As far as people in the fashion industry from London, are there any other people who inspired you besides Vivienne Westbrook and Danny?
Godber.
Because I feel like fashion and hair go hand in hand, and fashion out there is amazing. So I was wondering, who inspires you as far as people in the fashion industry?
Well, Yves Saint Laurent, Paul Smith. Paul Smith, I actually saw Paul Smith about a year and a half ago. I had the privilege of being at the British Vogue event in London. That was actually the best event I've ever been to. I was invited by some close friends, and I'll tell you the roster of people were there. It was quite remarkable. So Victoria Beckham spoke there, and she was the only one who wouldn't allow photographs, any cameras, photographs, anything. She was very, very interesting. And what's interesting about Victoria Beckham is that she's not bound to any licensing anyone else. She's completely self-financed. So what you're going to start to see is the most beautiful clothes that are not compromised. See, they don't have to hit certain sales targets because she's financing everything. And she's a tremendous inspiration. Paul Smith, has always been an inspiration. I'm wearing a Paul Smith suit today, so I'm happy to promote his work. Paul Smith, I think now is maybe 65. He had more energy than most 25-year-olds when I saw him speak. He stood up on the stage, he was lying down on the couch. The person who interviewed him was, she's a model, what is her name? Chung, I forget her name, Vanessa Chung, is it? British model. And anyhow, so very, very interesting. Paul Smith spoke. Who else? I heard, let's see, Donatella Versace was there. So the whole event, this event, was to do with what impact are British designers having on global fashion? And all of these, so Donatella, the people from Gucci, Zegna, all have designers that have come out of Britain. Actually, in Prada, I think, has 2 young British guys who are in their 20s who are designing for them. So the question was, why is it they're all coming out of London? And they talked about how it's with merging from fashion, music, politics, history, there's all this that's sort of this melting pot, amalgamation of just artistic talent. Any other questions? Yes?
How do you stay positive and motivated every day?
I do exactly what I told you to do. I look at myself in the mirror and I say to myself, here we go again. I do. But the thing I'll say to that, truly, it's a profound question, is I was actually saying this as on my drive to here today. When learning the most, we're outside of what we know. So when you feel really stressed and really anxious and at your wit's end, know that you're learning the most. That's why you're outside the comfort zone. Yes?
What challenges do you run into now and then?
I run into challenges all the time. And the challenges I run into is, how can I implement what I really want to do? Sometimes I'm afraid of my own ambition. I have a big plan. What I do is so the big plan is the challenge. I want to do it today, but I can't do it today. But what I do is the small things very, very well. I make sure I take each step towards that big plan. That's how I do it. Yes?
Do you have an assistant program there at the salon?
Yes, that's what we have. We have an assistant training program. Sherry Lynn came to visit that day. So the thing that we do at Alexander G is I actually teach personally the communications. I take you through this process. And there are 3 stylists who are involved in the training, and then myself included. So it's a very rigorous program, but we take you through. You can go to the website, alexanderg.com, and you can see each stages. But we actually keep our assistants in the communication component for about 6 months. It's high observation communication. So all these soft touches. So for example, what we do is we don't use words at no problem, not allowed. Care for. So when I ask someone, would you care for a cup of coffee? Would you care for a coffee? I don't say, and you say, yes, I'd love one. I don't say, no problem. We don't do that. I say, I'll be happy to help. So that's the things that we do. We teach these soft points because, as I was saying about brand experience, is that it is in the details. So when you go to check out, or you want to, oh, I forgot, I want to buy a gift certificate, I'm not going to say no problem to you. I'm going to say I'm happy to help, or of course. So it takes a while for people to get really conscious in knowing what to say and what not to say. The other thing that we do is at that shampoo basin, the only thing you're going to talk about is you're informing them as to what products you're using. and that's it. Yes and no responses when clients engage. Because some people really want to talk to you, and you just say yes, no, thank you, but you lower your voice. So, right, so the communication is the first stage. The program is really, in a way, it's shaped by the individual. It could take 3 years, but it can take a year, because often what we get are people who've come from the industry. In fact, that's the majority of the people I've had who have come from the industry, hairdressers who have had a lot of experience but are missing certain things or feel like their career has slumped. And so what I see they really need is this communication.
Where are you located?
We're currently located on Clement Street in San Francisco, and hopefully by November we will have our second location open on Bush Street at Montgomery. We use Schwarzkopf, Redken, and Famisi. Sherry Lynn.
Can you tell us about your products?
Pardon?
Can you tell us about your products?
Yes, I'd be happy to. So Alexander G hair care line is a very unique product because it's 90% natural. We have a production line where we turn our product around in 4 to 6 weeks. So the shampoos you're going to purchase and conditioners you're going to purchase from us are truly fresh. So the ingredients are active. It's very, very challenging, though, because we can't put all these additives in our product in order to extend shelf life, in order to distribute in a global manner. But I really believe in enhancing the health of hair. So much like what we do with the individual, we're enhancing that experience. We're also enhancing it through our hair care line. So that when you have had a highlight and haircut with me and spent $450, I want to know that you're taking home my products, so I can be fully responsible for what happens. Any other questions? Yes?
When somebody wants to assist you, what's something that they can do that would stand out to you?
It's in the interview process. What I'm interested in is an individual who wants a career at Alexander G. That's the thing, is if you're committed to a career, so that's what I do. I look at characteristics. I'm actually not interested in how much talent you have, because we're going to bring that out, but I'm really looking at character. Because really I see people drop out of this industry. It's tough. It's a hard industry. It's a highly competitive industry. But if you've got the right character, you can have a fabulous career. I mean, I don't feel like I go to work every day. This does not feel like work. Why? Because this is what I do. I connect with people. When I go out at night to fundraisers and functions, I'm just being myself, and I am behind the chair. So the chair experience has sort of permeated other areas of my life.
What do you do when you're out and you meet someone and they actually look at you, you say you're a hairdresser, and they ask you about your pricing? Do you tell them right then, or do you just tell them to come in for a consultation?
It's a good question. It really depends on the individual. What I want to do is have a conversation about their hair and about themselves. So usually what happens with me, rarely does someone actually just ask me that. You know, that's why I hesitate, because actually someone doesn't. They usually start talking to me, and then they ask me, well, what do you do? And I say, you're a hairdresser? And then they talk to me. And the surprise is what we were talking about at the beginning, which is how the industry is so misrepresented. So I'm happy to talk about it, but what I do is go through a process first, and then I'm happy to say. But usually what I do is I recommend stylists. I don't promote myself. I always recommend stylists. Why? Did someone ask why? Yes. Yeah, I'm so busy, and I want my stylist to be successful. Most people most people won't pay my prices. So I tried to make it a little bit more difficult so that those people who do really want to be in my chair really want to be in that chair. And that's the thing is I think that it would be good one day to come and visit the salon and talk, well, Sherry Lynn has, and talk to the stylist. My goal is to make them successful. I'm successful. I'm not concerned about that. What I want to do is promote my different stylists.
How would you rank your salon compared to the other top salons?
How would I rank? We're an excellent hair salon. I don't think there's anything better than Alexander G. Seriously. It all depends, though, on your experience as a client. The client is the one who determines it. But if you ask me, there's nothing better than Alexander G's British approach to hair. Yes?
How many chairs do you have in your salon?
7.
7. Are they all full?
I have, yeah, full of style. Well, actually, because we double book, there aren't 7 stylists busy all at once, but we're busy. Yes?
Do you have any cards with you?
I have many cards, and I'd be happy to give you one.
Thank you.
Yes?
Are you a full service salon?
We are a full-service salon.
Do you generalize or specialize?
Oh, that's an interesting term. Generalize myself personally or the salon?
The whole,
The salon?
yeah.
Generalize throughout. Are we full service? Yes.
So that I can do head and color and
Oh, right, yes. Most of us, part of our training program is that see, I like to teach hairdressers to do everything because it's going to be more lucrative for you. You're going to be more valuable to yourself. I'll tell you, the big salons want to compartmentalize you because then you're more dependent on them. But if you have all of it encompassed, you're more valuable. You're going to earn a lot more money, and you're not going to be so dependent. But I do have one stylist who is solely a colorist. She has gone through the training program, but she just does color. And actually, she's my personal colorist. And I've helped build her up. She's actually been with me for she says 4 years with a 2-year vacation. She went and worked in New York for 2 years, then came back. So that's another thing. I have hairdressers that come back to me after going out there in the industry. See, and why do they come back? Because they want to build a career. They're serious about a career. The thing is that I really care about the individual, and I'm going to be on you if you're in my assistant program. There are going to be times where you really don't like me. Well, that's good because I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in your commitment. When you say you want to be a great hairdresser, I'm going to take you through that training. But I do it with everyone. We have quarterly reviews for every hairdresser, every assistant, and I conduct all of those meetings. You have goals, you have all these different things. And then you can talk with me one-on-one about what you're struggling with. Yes?
Are you looking to grow further than just 2 salons?
Yes.
Outside of San Francisco?
I don't know about outside San Francisco, but we are looking, my current goal in the next 3 to 5 years is to have 3 salons in San Francisco.
I have a question about this salon. Well, first I want to ask you a personal question. When you went and studied for cosmetology, did you study for a year or did you study for many years?
So for 4 years.
And then about your guys' salon, are you guys located like near Golden Gate Park? Is that where?
Yes, we're actually, our salon is near Seacliff. So we actually cover Seacliff, Richmond, Sunset. So when I first came here from Beverly Hills, I came to a wedding and I was actually sitting in the passenger seat. This is before Google. And I'm reading the map and my friend is driving and I thought, this is so odd. Why all the salons all clustered in this area, yet the wealth is all out here. Why are there no decent salons? So that was really why I opened where I did, and we're very successful. But now what we're going to do is open another location to cater to those clients who work in the downtown area. How are we doing for time?
We should probably finish up your
Okay.
question.
why do you say British approach to like
So it's mainly to do with formalizing language, but it is, as I said, it's the Alexander G. British approach to hair. The reason I say this is because we have a very specific consultation that we've tailored. So it's much more likely to be found something similar in London. See, the way I was trained was very formally. But what I've done is create what was missing. So when I opened my own salon, all the things that I felt that were missing, and one of the things were, I wish I'd had people who sort of were looking out for my career, not just a temporary process. And so I've just added things to it. And it's because where I come from. I mean, even though I've been here for a number of years, I'm British.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thank you. Yes, I'll be happy to give them out. Thank you, that was great. Really enjoyed it. Nice to meet you, Nicholas. It's a real pleasure. Thank you. I'm sorry?
Do you do exiting? Like if I hit 1200 hours?
Yeah, we do that. I mean, Sherry Lynn.